नमस्ते. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Sorry, the YouTube live didn't work well, so I'm just trying to get a recording done. Uh, last patha, in the last patha we looked at yoga darshana, in which we looked at there are 8 angas, Ashtanga yoga, and in those 8 angas we looked at the first 3 angas, yama, niyama and asana. The next anga, the fourth anga, is the pranayama anga, where pranayama, as is very well known, there is inhalation, retention, exhalation and sometimes retention. So there is an inner retention of breath or outer retention of breath, and there is a controlled breathing of inhalation and exhalation. Other than this, which is well known, there is also an underlying stillness of breath, which is the real pranayama or the fourth pranayama as per the Yoga Sutras. So the fourth stillness is what will cleanse the karma, so to say. Meaning, it will what it does is that it removes the veil of the prakasha as per the sutras, and thereby that is where the pranayama should, or rather one should target one's own pranayama to reach that level. In any case, the control of the breath also increases the lifespan. It helps the asana also become more comfortable. So there is a dependency on pranayama for asana also. And it helps the energy move without obstacles. When this energy movement flow is smoother, then, as it is said in the Tantra Shastras also, the Kundalini can rise without any physical or subtle level obstacles. So from gross level to subtle level, there are many obstacles for the energy movement. The energy itself is very subtle, so the movement being blocked is also not known, but it manifests in different manners which can be known as a physical manifestation as well. So if one is uncomfortable in sitting, in breathing, all these are obstacles which will go away by controlled breathing in pranayama. Further, this pranayama itself can give a good relaxation, leading to the fifth limb. So there is not much needed to discuss on pranayama, as most of us know that there is Bhastrika, Ityadi, Kapalabhati, all these are there. But the ratio, usually to start with, a good ratio is 1:4:2. So if you are breathing through one nostril and holding the breath, so whatever count you breathe in, 4 times of that you retain the breath, and 2 times you leave it. 1:4:2. And then this can be, the duration of breathing can also be prolonged. Breathing in, inhalation can be prolonged, and then the ratio remaining same, the single cycle of breathing in and breathing out, breathing in through one nostril and breathing out through the other, and vice versa, would also be elongated. This pranayama anga leads to the fifth anga, which is pratyahara. Pratyahara anga is one of the most difficult, because So far these 4 angas are Baihya angas. They are considered as Baihanga sadhanas to Samadhi. Whereas the last 3 angas, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, are the Antaranga sadhanas. Or Antaranga, Samadhi itself being the goal. The 5th anga, Pratyahara, is that which converts the Baihanga to Antaranga. Therefore, it is quite important to succeed in Pratyahara, without which Dharana won't be possible. Dharana leading to Dhyana won't be possible, and Dhyana leading to Samadhi wouldn't be possible. So Pratyahara is control of sense organs. It is also one of the most difficult angas. And since most of the moderners focus on the asana pranayama without yama niyama, which are the first two, yama niyama lacking Pratyahara does not succeed. So Pratyahara would succeed if yama niyama is done properly and continuously. Then it is possible to do Pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdrawal of the sense organs. So withdrawing the sense organs from the Vishayas, from their objects. So physically closing the sense organs or blocking the sense organs forcibly, like you close your eyes, you are not seeing, close your ears, you are not hearing, and so on. That is one level of controlling the sense organs. But within the desire to see the objects, desire to hear the object, taste, etc., doesn't go away. Therefore, the real Pratyahara is not only physically withdrawing the limbs, but mentally withdrawing the limbs. The limbs in a sense, the sense organs. Why I am saying limbs is because a comparison to Pratyahara is like the tortoise withdraws its limbs within the shell. Similarly, we should be able to withdraw the sense organs from their objects within. So even when the eyes are open, if we are not drawn towards the object of desire, even when the ears are open, even when we are able to smell, but still we are not drawn towards some smell that we otherwise desire, etc., then the Pratyahara would succeed. So there is control needed at both levels, physically withdrawing the sense organs forcibly initially, restraining oneself, and then working on the desires themselves as to what is it that I am really focused towards. If Samadhi is the goal, then the sense organs focused outside are not going to help me towards it. In fact, they are taking me away from the goal. Therefore, with this thinking, if one is able to control the sense organs initially and then automatically they remain withdrawn, then the Pratyahara Anga would have succeeded. This would convert the Bahiranga Sadhana into Antaranga Sadhana. The 4 outer limbs, Yama, Niyama, Asana and Pranayama, these should continue till Pratyahara is sufficient enough to allow a person to do Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi put together has a technical name called Sanyama. And this Sanyama can be on various things for various siddhis as mentioned in the 3rd chapter of Yoga Sutras. But those siddhis also block Samadhi. Therefore, one should not hanker after siddhis, and Sanyama should be used for the benefit of the sadhaka's movement towards the samadhi. So, for example, let's say there is krodha, there is a lot of anger. A person has a lot of anger. Then what happens is that this anger itself will not allow a person to do sadhana. Then what should one do? So wherever the anger is towards a person, let's say, then the Yoga Shastra says that one can focus on the opposite quality. So if one considers someone else as the enemy, and those are the thoughts which are coming up and not allowing pratyahara to succeed, therefore dharana is not possible. Dharana is concentration. So dharana is concentration, dhyana is meditation, and samadhi is absorption in the vishaya, the dhyana vishaya. So what one is advised to do, so that one is able to cross over from the bahiranga sadhana to the antaranga sadhana through the pratyahara and succeed in the first antaranga sadhana, which is dharana, one is able to focus on the dhyana vishaya, the object of meditation, is that one is asked to cultivate the good qualities which are opposed to the inherent bad qualities. So if one has a lot of anger towards someone, then one should try to develop friendship towards that person, and in the not only in actual practice, which would be difficult, but what one could do is meditate upon the quality of Maitri, friendship. So this is the advice that the Shastra gives, and so on with each and every pair of opposing qualities. One should pick the good over the bad, therefore one should focus on that. One can meditate upon that quality till one gets siddhi, so to say, on that quality, meaning one attains success as to the quality becoming one's own second nature. And so on, one can work upon oneself, as one alone knows one's own flaws hidden within. So there is no need for anyone else to point out. Since the Yoga Shastra is also tuned towards one's individual's benefit, therefore one can look within as to what is it that stops me from doing dharana, as to when I try to focus on Ishvara, my Ishtadevata, or Omkara, or my prana, my breath itself. So these are all options given in Yoga Shastra as to what all can you meditate upon. One's Guru. So all these options are given. And then finally Yoga Shastra says that you can take any Vishaya. That is why the Sanyama can work on any Vishaya, including good qualities. So one is able to cultivate these to a great extent and then succeed in the real Vishaya of Yoga Shastra, meaning Ishwaradi Vishayas on which one can do dharana. So one starts concentrating on that particular object. Whenever one finds obstacles as to the mind wavering, all this is because Yama Niyama is not sufficient. So one should keep on working on those as well. Just because one thinks that one is able to do some dharana, therefore one should not drop out of practice of pratyahara and all the earlier four angas. Anyway, one will be sitting in a particular posture. So asana, if asana siddhi is there, well and good. If not, then asana and pranayama are needed to make the asana more comfortable and one is able to focus on the dhyana vishaya and do dharana on that. And yama niyama anyway should be continued lifelong. There is no reason to drop yama niyama. Further, one sitting in a particular asana, when one is doing dharana, that time if the mind is wavering, then one can look at one's own thoughts as to what are these thoughts which are coming up, which are dragging me away from my focus concentration towards the dhyana vishaya, whether it is ishtamurti, some form of Ishvara, or one's own guru, or the simplest exercise would be to try to focus on the breath and omkara. So omkara, when omkara is mentioned, then this omkara is not the akshara which is drawn on the wall or the picture on the wall. And when one closes the eyes also, if one is focusing on the omkara, which is the letter, that is not right. What is meant by omkara is the sound om. The sound om, on that sound object, the object omkara in sound, that is the omkara which is mentioned, pranava omkara, on which one should do dhyana. Now there are varied sampradayas on how should this omkara be meditated upon. The Shuddha Omkara chanting without, as a bija mantra, without any other mantra, the orthodoxy says that only sannyasis have adhikara in Omkara japa. Therefore, this Omkara, sound of Omkara is what one should meditate upon, and one should not really do japa of this Omkara while doing dhyana. Then the silence, as Mandukya Upanishad discusses this, akara, ukara, makara are the three letters in Omkara. Then the silence that follows, which is called as amatra, that is also what is the real vishaya of meditation, as discussed in Mandukya and Chandogya Ityadi Upanishads. Anyway, this is an aside just to say what is this Omkara. So based on what Siddhi is sought after, which part of Omkara should be elongated, all these are discussed in various Shastras. But our focus is to see the overview of how this Yoga Darshana helps one reach one's goal of Mukti. So Dharana is that stage, that Anga, where one is trying to concentrate on whichever is the Vishaya for Dhyana that one has picked up, the object of meditation. And then when this concentration, which is having many drops in concentration, meaning one is weaned away many a time by the mind with various thoughts, when it becomes close to singular, slowly, when the distractions are less and lesser towards the goal of dhyana, which is the next anga, then one finds that it is comparable to the flow of oil, meaning the thoughts are no longer scattered. The thoughts are in line, meaning they may not be exactly the same, meaning it is not mere parroting or repetition of something. So the object of meditation is held in the mind, whether it is a sound or whether it is a picture, or it is one is trying to look at all the details of, let's say, Vishnu's Murti, Saguna Upasana, or whether it is Brahma Tattva as it is in Vedanta. Whatever it is, when one is having a similar flow of thoughts, meaning the class of thoughts is similar. It need not be this exact same thought which is repeated, but it is of a similar variety, without distractions, without interruptions from different thoughts. Then, since the thoughts are not scattered, the stream of thoughts is not comparable to the flow of water. So when you pour water from one vessel to the other, the water scatters. However, when you pour oil, that time it doesn't scatter. It is a single, as though single line of flow. So that is the comparison given, taila dhara avat, like the flow of oil. So when this concentration of thoughts on the Vishaya is such that the flow is like that of oil, the flow of thoughts, meaning it is the same category of thoughts as is the Vishaya of meditation, then this dharana converts into dhyana. That is what we call as meditation. It is not that I meditate. So we have a lot of lot of advertisements or a lot of talk about meditation classes and all that. So people say that I meditate, but what is really that one does is one concentrates. If you look at it, it is not that one is meditating by choice, but one becomes meditative when one is concentrating. So the dharana is what one is having control over. That too when the earlier 5 limbs are followed well, practiced well, then dharana becomes easier, and then at a certain point of time this dharana converts itself into meditation because there is no distraction. That is the only difference if you look at it between dharana and dhyana. So you say that I am going to do dhyana, but you start with dharana, and that dharana progresses itself or graduates into dhyana, meditation. So technically if you look at it, that I meditate is not as appropriate as I concentrate and then it converts into meditation. Of course, there are other tantric methodologies where with the power of the Guru's Shakti, what is called a Shakti path, the sadhaka is able to attain the meditative state faster because all the cleansing that takes up in time. But as though the Guru gives a booster for the sadhaka to progress and continue from wherever he left off in the earlier janma or multiple janmas earlier. All that is there. In fact, there are some acharyas who say that the practice of all the asanas, pranayama, all these should be done so long as they are not automatic. So which are called as kriyas in other granthas, in Kundalini granthas, that the kriyas happen automatically. So the asana can happen automatically, and the pranayama also, particular kind of pranayama, bandhas, all these can happen automatically, which in Hatha Yoga are done forcibly. They take place automatically in Shakti path. In any case, back to the main topic of dharana becoming dhyana. So in dhyana, what is happening? In dhyana, there is hardly any different variety of thought to the thought of meditation, the thought of the object of meditation. And then that variety also becomes very narrow. It becomes so narrow that at one point of time, the meditator, the meditated object, the object of meditation, and the meditation activity, these are the three which are called a triputi. So the meditator is aware that I am meditating on the object. So he is aware of the thought that is going on, whether it is the sound that he is focusing on, whether it is the breath that he is focusing on, or the Ishtadevata, Omkara, whatever it is. So the meditator is separate from the meditated object, and the meditation kriya is going on. There are only these three things which are there. There is no distraction. There is a very narrow variety of thoughts about the meditated object. The meditator anyway is one, and the kriya is one, meditation kriya, dhyana kriya. So what happens when this dhyana also progresses to such a level that these three remain in such a manner that the meditator is not aware of anything else. So far the meditator knew that I was meditating and there is an object of meditation, there is kriya going on, and he is also aware of the body mind sense complex and the surrounding in one way or the other, but his focus was on the meditated object, the object of meditation, the Vishaya. I'll just say the Vishaya, Dhyana Vishaya. And in Dhyana there were no other thoughts, they were only thoughts of the Dhyana Vishaya. Now these start collapsing, meaning everything else other than this Triputi starts collapsing. That is called as Samadhi, wherein one retains the individuality, but other than the Dhyana Vishaya there is nothing else. So one is aware that meditation is going on, that I am the meditator separate from the Dhyana Vishaya. So long there is Samadhi absorption, everything else has merged into the Dhyana Vishaya. There is nothing else. There is no world outside. There is no subtle world also. Everything has collapsed into the Dhyana Vishaya, and I am separate from that Dhyana Vishaya. That Samadhi is called as Asamprajñata Samadhi. In Vedanta text it is called as, has a different name. I don't want to talk about that right now, because there are differences as to whether that Samadhi is same or different from this Asamprajñata Samadhi. That's an aside, we'll see when we see Vedanta. But the Asamprajñata Samadhi has this Triputi division. When that also vanishes, because this Asamprajñata Samadhi also leads to Sukha. Because what is this Anubhava of Sukha, Sukha Anubhava or happiness, what is it really? And what is Dukkha? So all the Shastras talk about the happiness not being in the Vishaya. Happiness is never in any object. Happiness is within oneself. That happiness is experienced by an individual. And since the happiness is experienced by an individual with an object in mind, one associates that happiness to that object. And it is very clear that the same object does not give the same level of happiness to an individual at all times, let alone others. What I find as a source of happiness, that object is not a source of happiness for others. Let's take food, the simplest example. So if I like sweet, I'll say that I find happiness in this sweet. Somebody who has diabetes or does not like sweet, likes spicy food, does not find happiness in this sweet. Therefore, the happiness is not in that object of happiness that I attribute to. It is not there in the sweet itself. It is within me. Then why is it that that happiness which is within me got tied up with that object of sweet? To that the Shastras say that happiness is one's very own nature, which is veiled because of the desire of that object. Many objects, but in this example, I desire to eat sweet, and since that sweet is not available, I have dukkha. I am saddened, I have sorrow. But as soon as the sweet is available, then there is some gradation of happiness, priya. When it is made available to me, there is some more happiness because the desire keeps on reducing because I am going to consume it. Therefore, the veil of my sukha, my nature of happiness, is slowly going. Therefore, I am more happy. And when I consume it, there is no desire for that sweet because it is as though the sweet and I have become one. As soon as I put that sweet in my mouth, the object of desire is not separate from me, therefore there is no desire left. Therefore there is pramoda, there is sukha, which is my own nature, which is no longer blocked from me because I do not have a desire veiling it. This is one example. We have so many desires, so many desires are veiling our swarupa, our very nature of happiness, ananda, and thereby whatever object, the desire towards whichever object drops off, to that extent we experience happiness and then misconstrue that happiness to be there in that object. This is what the Shastras say. So when a person is in samprajñāta samadhi, with the Triputi being there, that time there is a lot of happiness because there is nothing else other than the object of meditation, which is separate from me, which I am wanting. The reason that I am meditating upon the Guru is that I want to be like the Guru. If I meditate upon Ishvara, I want Ishvara's blessing, I want to be like Ishvara. So the dhyana vishaya is still different in samprajñāta samadhi, and since I am separate from it, there is still limited happiness. That happiness is limited. However, it is multiple times of happiness than any other happiness that I have ever experienced, because the desires which kept me away from my happiness had been many. Now I don't have those distractions because all the distractions have dropped off. The only object that I desire anymore is the dhyana vishaya. When that also drops off by the meditator himself merging into the object of meditation, then that is asamprajñāta samadhi. That time there is no triputi, there is no division of the karta, karma and kriya, meaning dhyata, dhyana and dhyeya. There is no difference at all. I do not know that I am meditating, but the mind also resolves in that dhyana vishaya. The object of meditation consumes the meditator as though. So becoming one with that Ishvara or the dhyana vishaya, there is no real bheda, there is no desire pending, there is nothing else, which is what is called as chitta vritti nirodha. There is no thought separate. It is only the object of meditation where the meditator has merged. And this samadhi, for however long it lasts, it reduces the karma bandhana. It produces a dharma megha, it produces a lot of dharma which counters papa, samskaras, and therefore there is a lot of cleansing of the antakarana. As per Vedanta Shastra, this itself is not mukti, but if one can be in the samadhi for a long time, Yoga Shastras consider that itself as mukti. Why it is not mukti? Because once one comes out of this samadhi, one is still bound with the individuality and the earlier limitations. But more the individual practices, more the yogi practices this samadhi, abhyasa, then so much is the cleansing that one is hardly having any samskaras left, which are blocking Ananda in this very waking state without the Samadhi. So the more the Samadhi Abhyasa, the more is the cleansing, and over a prolonged time, the Prarabdha which is blocking the Ananda, meaning the desires which keep on coming up due to samskaras, they will have washed away. And being washed away, even when one is in the interaction with the world, which has anyway become less over a period of time for the yogi, there is a lot of manifest Ananda. Samadhi, of course, itself dragging a person wanting that sukha over and over can also be binding, but it is better than Vishaya's binding. But without the jnana, Atma Jnana, which is revealed by the Upanishads, Samadhi by itself cannot give moksha. But if one has Vedanta Jnana and practices Samadhi, that is a great combination as per the orthodox Sampradaya. So we'll stop here, we'll continue in the next partha. So much for yoga right now. We'll look at Advaita Vedanta and other Vedanta in the next partha, or maybe we'll look at Nastika Darshanas a bit. We'll see what we'll do in the next partha. Or I'll give an overview of Vedanta and then we'll do some Nastika Darshanas overview. Then we'll go to depth of the same darshanas that we have seen, one round, an overview of. Shankaram Lok Shankaram. Namaste, Dhanyavada.